This might not be the most interesting video ever, I even highly doubt it, but it is going to make your next Pokemon playthrough a lot more exciting and, most importantly, fun. Before starting though, I want to mention that everybody is different and likes different things, as well as dislikes different things. And because I'm trying to target all of those, I'll explain what those tips I'm going to say will do and for who they are. So you can tailor your individual experience. That's also why there won't be a complete package like a Nuzlocke in this video, but rather all the building blocks for a Nuzlocke. You might and you probably will know some things, but unless you extensively looked into these topics, you probably didn't know all of them. And if you don't want to watch the ones you didn't know, I've made every single tip into a chapter. I've also have 3 categories that I've categorized this into. So let's get right into making your game more challenging. Challenges are important for a few things. For one, if something is challenging, you need to use your brain to solve it. And using your brain is usually the opposite of boring, as well as very satisfying if the strategy you came up with worked. If there's difficulty, there can be clutch and memorable moments, which just wouldn't have happened if the game was a breeze. The first tip is setting your battle style to set. Usually, if you KO an opposing mon, they tell you which Pokemon they will send out next and ask you whether you want to swap your Pokemon. That makes it very easy to always have the advantage on the field and completely undermines the complex battle system that has a massive fanbase and a thriving competitive scene. So, in my opinion, you should set your battle style to set. The only thing you're compromising is that your opponents will get off more attacks, so you'll take more damage or status conditions or whatever they can do with that attack. So you need to heal more, which might be tedious, but in my opinion it's totally worth it because the playing experience is completely different. The next tip will change your battling experience even more drastically. Don't battle wild Pokemon. Because the less XP you gain, the lower the levels of your party are. And therefore, when going into trainer fights, you'll have a level disadvantage, which makes those fights harder and will force you to come up with better strategies. I usually have an exception to this rule whenever I play without experience share, to be able to train new team members up to the lowest level of my party. This also comes with a disadvantage to make you find less new Pokemon. So if you're a person who enjoys going out and finding all the Pokemon, this tip might not be for you. But if you think fighting wild Pokemon is a chore anyways and want to make your battles harder and more interesting, this is perfect for you. Another way to not just completely overwhelm your opponents is to have a similar amount of Pokemon as they have. By limiting the amount of Pokemon you can use at a certain stage in a game, you can make your games harder because you just don't have as many Pokemon to choose from, which is for one, less health, and second, not as many options to have a hard counter against everything. There are many different limitations to do this. For example, the Nuzlocke challenge does it like you can catch 1 Pokemon per route. There's also a challenge I played, which is I can catch 1 Pokemon before every gym, but you can just go simple party limitations like 2 Pokemon for the first 2 gyms, 3 for the 3rd and 4th, and so on. It's up to you how you want to do this. This might be a little less organic and force you to plan ahead more, but by forcing the Pokemon you can use, you can force yourself into new situations which will make you come up with interesting strategies to beat certain opponents. And there are many ways to do this. Like a Nuzlocke, for example, the first Pokemon you encounter in each route, but there's also like the Wanderlog, You could also do a monotype challenge, which is pretty popular, or make a no evolution challenge where every Pokemon you catch must be the lowest evolution or not the highest. This is up to you. You could also go as far as catching your entire team anew before each gym, but that's pretty tedious, so you need to be the person who wants to do this. You can do something very similar if you not limit the Pokemon you use, but the moves you can use. Maybe use only stab moves, no stab moves, or only status condition moves, which, okay, this could be a bit tedious to wait till every opponent drops because of Toxic or Leech Seed or something like that. Or you go with no status moves at all. Then there's the natural challenge with no TM moves or move tutor moves, which makes your Pokemon rely on the moves they learn, which aren't too bad actually in the later generations. You have probably heard about the rule to use no items, and you can do that, and that's very challenging, but especially if you combine it with other challenges I present here. Usually it's more interesting to limit the use of items in trainer battles to like 1 to 3 or 5, depending on how many you think you need. Limiting the item uses makes you think about what item to use when, and therefore presents a unique challenge in itself. So limiting the amount of items you can use in a battle is, in my opinion, far more fun than just using no items. On that note, you can ban some items like revives or battle items like the X items, which are pretty powerful. But you can even take this further and ban something like a full heal. So you have to use the specific item for a certain status condition. Or just ban the item that you use the most often to make you think about using other ones. And now we are going with the challenge that everybody has been waiting for and is the main part of the Nuzlocke, and that is to limit Pokemon lives. There can be more than one life, like 2 lives or 3 lives, depending on how good you are or how much you actually want to lose those Pokemon. But if you limit the Pokemon's lives, you add stake. And that is great, because it actually creates clutch and memorable moments when your Pokemon survives on 1 HP. It's totally different whether it's dead or whether you can just go to Poke Center, come back and nothing happened. It's just a different feeling, and therefore adding stake like that can add a lot of excitement. Another way you can make the games challenging is non-battle challenges. The most heard of is probably speedrunning, and for some reason, like the close second is an upside down run, which I never tried before, but I'm gonna try it because I read that way more than I should have. But you can also do other challenges like only running and biking whenever possible, which makes navigating harder. The next big chapter is the roleplay aspect. Pokemon is a role-playing game after all, and there's a lot of things that you can do to higher immersion and have a more fun adventure than you would have if you just didn't lean into the roleplay aspects. So let's start with the most obvious one. Customize your character. The game asks you for a name and a gender or profile picture, and you often have the choice to change your hairstyle, get new clothes, customize your trainer card, and so on. So use them. You don't even have to model that character after you. Think of what character it would be fun to go on a Pokemon adventure with, like you would do for a D&D game, for example. How would they behave? How would they look? What items would they use or not? What kind of Pokemon would they catch? How would they explore the world? Try to see the Pokemon world through new eyes. It will make a totally different playthrough. And even if you don't go with a character that would theme their team, maybe have a theme anyways. It makes you think more about adding party members and also might make you play Pokemon you wouldn't have otherwise. The same way you can customize your character, you can also customize the Pokemon you're catching. What nicknames do they have? Are they male, female? What natures do they have? Or catch a Pokemon with the right nature for the character you want the Pokemon to have. Maybe it is a very weak Pokemon, so it's supposed to have low IVs. Or it's a very special Pokemon, so you want it to be shiny. It might also be a crybaby, so it uses moves like fake tears. Or it doesn't like touching others, so it doesn't use contact moves at all. What is your relationship to this Pokemon? Have a high friendship, have a low friendship? Stuff like that will make your adventure more lively and will immerse you a lot more. If you need help with coming up with a character for your Pokemon maybe, or you just want to learn more about them, reading the Pokédex entries is great, or going one step further and reading the wiki like Bulbapedia or any other website for more information about that Pokemon. It will get you more immersed in the Pokemon universe because you just know more about it. The next tip might sound weird, like literally it is to talk to your Pokemon. Give it commands. Pikachu, I choose you, or Pikachu, Thunderbolt, or good job if it does a good job and faints an opposing Pokemon. It does get you immersed a lot more into the game, because you're also hearing the game and talking to the game. Another way to customize your experience would be to take part in extra optional challenges that Game Freak provides, like completing the Pokédex, taking part in a national gimmick like contests or secret bases underground, Poké Camping, or you could make some stupid goal like own all the clothes there are in Sword and Shield, or Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon for that matter. Just doing these little extra things can make Pokemon much more than just battle, 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 battle. You can even take your adventure out of the game. Write, draw, compose, remix, sing, dance, or whatever you want about your adventure. There are even people who are making their own Pokemon fan game, like I am on this channel for example. What it does is it expands the universe for you, and it also combines a fun activity with Pokemon creatively, which is usually very fun, and most people who try it also stick with it. So yeah, if you like any of those creative things, try it. The last big chapter is about making your life easier and less annoying. There's not much more to say about quality of life, so let's jump right into the first tip. At the very beginning of your playthrough, as soon as you can, open up the settings menu and look through the settings. Different Pokemon games might have slightly different settings, but for example, the change text speed one is one I always turn up to max because I don't like to wait on the text to catch up to my reading speed. Also, Sword and Shield has a cool setting where if you don't want to use nicknames, you can disable the prompt that asks you to nickname the Pokemon. And there's a lot of different things like that, so go through the settings. Those things might only save you a fraction of a second at a time, but it's 1 or 2 clicks less, and it saves you that fraction of a second hundreds of times during the game, and that adds up. While we're talking about things that often save you a little amount of time, let's talk about ordering lists. There's a lot of lists in the game, and often you can order them. For example, the items do have order by category or alphabet, but they also have something called favorites. Whenever you use an item very often, consider saving it as favorite. Something similar would be in the menu. You can order your menu items according to how often you use them. And the last tip for the day is more of a psychological thing. It is to use your items out of battle. This just saves you the time to run back to a Pokemon Center, and you get so much money thrown at you anyways in those more modern games that you don't really need anymore. So yeah, go ahead and spend the money at Pokemarts, buy potions, buy antidotes and whatever you need, and then use those on the routes whenever you would go back to the PC. Now, there are different types of people, and some people are more bothered by potentially losing something or wasting an item. But if you learn to not be bothered by that, you save a lot of runs back to the Pokemon Center and your gameplay is gonna be much more interesting with less boring backtracking. Now that you know a few ways to make your Pokemon playthrough more fun, it's up to you to choose the most interesting to you and use them in your next Pokemon run. If you notice that some of them aren't good for you, then just change the rules mid-run. After all, it is your run and you're playing to have fun. But I promise you, if you try a few of those rules, you will discover a whole new world to Pokemon, and I think that alone is worth it. Did I get every point, or did I maybe miss something? Please feel free to tell me down in the comments below, as I'm always eager to learn of even more ways to make Pokemon more fun for me, and it'll also help fellow viewers out who are looking for even more ways down in the comments. But that's enough from me. Now it's time for you to be a good student, go out into the real world, show me what you've learned and have fun. Or something like that, I guess.